Hello and welcome back to a continuous coverage of the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup semi-final match between two heavyweights of the world cricket. And the way the match is going right now, Australia is slowly inching towards the victory, and they have 207 runs right now, and the target is of 213 runs. And the kind of cricket, we can say it was a thrilling match. The way the match has been started, Australia started the match on a fantastic note. After that, South Africa was there back in the contest with few wickets, but finally we can say that Australia is almost there in the finals of the ICC World Cup, where they will face India at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. So let's get started. So welcome to this coverage of the ICC Cricket World Cup. And the way match has been panned out, we saw that it was a thrilling at one point of time. It was looking like that Australia will just on the spot of bother, but they finally found their rhythm back and they got there. And we are hoping that it will be a great contest. If we talk about the final match, as Australia is almost there in the final of the ICC Cricket World Cup, and right now the score is 206 for the loss of 7 wickets, and they need 7 runs in 29 balls with Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins on the pitch. So we saw that the way match panned out. Again, of South Africa just crumbled at the crucial juncture of a mega tournament. And to get more perspective, to get the perspective on this match, we are joined by our correspondent Anil Thomas from Kolkata. Anil, a very warm welcome to the show. And again, the way things gone for the, we can say, the South African team throughout the tournament, they played well. And again, it is looking like that today they again crumbled here. So what went wrong for this team who played a fantastic cricket throughout the tournament, and the crucial juncture, again, they are faltering?
Well, you're bang on with your assessment, especially when it comes to the way South Africans have gone about in this particular tournament. They started strongly. They could have done much better in the semi-final. Again, it's a tough call at the end of the day. They started off on a bad note, 24 for 4, and then to reach 212. I think David Miller played a brilliant innings, but in the end, it's not rewarding. You don't walk into the final. But they did put up a good fight considering the score that they had put. But Australians would be happy. Australians would be cheering this particular moment. They are now into their 8th World Cup final, and they would be looking at making it 9 in a row, and India would be looking to make it 11 in a row. So it's going to be a good contest between 9 versus 11.
So Anil, as you said that Australia again a formidable force, and they started the tournament with 2 losses, and after that they made consecutive wins here at this edition of the ICC World Cup. So whenever they are coming at this juncture of the tournament, at the knockout stage of the tournament, there is a different team. They look like a different team. So what's the psychology behind this? Whenever they are at this stage, they becomes a different team.
Well, Narayan, winning is a habit, and South Australians enjoy that to the tilt. I think teams that enjoy success, especially in one-day cricket, India, Australia are amongst the two, and they are 2 teams that have reached this particular edition World Cup finals. So that speaks volumes about the way Australians prepare for big matches. And this is where Australia won their first World Cup in '87. So they have fond memories of this particular ground. And once again, this particular ground coming good for Australia. Remember, any team batting in the semi-final is generally considered to be heading towards a win, or at least half the battle won. But I think South African captain today must be, not smiling at the end of the day, because this was a good toss to win, a good track to bat on. But I think South Africans made a mess of it, losing those 4 wickets. And full marks to the Australian bowlers and fielders, because they dried up the runs, and that's where Quinton de Kock and I would say many of the batsmen there in the top order made a blunder, especially when it comes to handling or putting those runs on the board.
If we take a look at the Australia's journey, Anil, in this match, in every match there is an individual performance, and that individual performance rather than a team performance is helping the team to be there to win and to enter the next stage of the tournament. If you talk about the Afghanistan match, Maxwell was there. In the previous match, we saw that Mitchell Marsh is coming there, and today also we saw the Travis Head, the way he bowled and the way he batted helped Australia to come back in the contest. So do you think in this tournament, every stage Australia found a hero, and do you think in the final also will there be some repetition, or India will be more dominant to this team?
Well, you wouldn't have many fans after that comment that you just made, Narayan. But you need to understand that Australia, kamat the hour, kamat the man. There's a saying, and Australians believe firmly in that. Every match they've got a standout hero. This particular match too, the opener and the spinner, the way he came about doing things for Australia, first getting that double break. Remember, the difference between Australians and South Africans picking wicket on this particular track was whenever Australians managed to get wickets, they always managed to get wickets in two. As compared to the South Africans, they managed to get a wicket, then there was a lull, and that's where Australian managed to come back much stronger, much sharper. And Australians never gave South Africans the same opportunity in this game, and that's been the difference of the two sides. If South Africa at any point of time would have got 2 to 3 wickets together, it could have been a different contest altogether. It could have been much closer, and it could have all gone down to the wire.
True. If we take a look at we can say that they fell short of 30-40 odd runs, and if they would have taken few more wickets at the right juncture, the contest would be different. But
Narayan, I'm just going to ask you to hold your thoughts. There are a few fans with me. Let's get a quick reaction from them on this particular Australian win. How do you look at this Australian performance?
It's a good match, competitive. And okay, there was some in the second half that spinning, that pitch was more like spinning. We thought that okay, at one time that maybe Australia is going to lose, but anyway, they keep their nerve and then win that. And this is always this Australia's knockout in ICC.
Okay. How do you look at this particular game?
It's very interesting. First, we thought that Australia is going to win because South Africa, they took out all of them with very not that much run. But actually, when Australia started batting and South Africa was bowling, they did a really good job and then could hold it for a long time. Okay. But at the end, of course, Australia won.
Okay. One more fan here, Narayan, before. How do you look at this particular game and what's special?
Yeah, so what we have noticed in this World Cup so far is that South Africa, while they have batted first, have been excellent so far. Like, they have scored around 350 to 400 on average on every single game. And we have also noticed that Australia has been struggling while chasing. So I think it's a very big win, to overcome that mentality, because they've been struggling in in this year particularly, if you notice the previous matches. And I feel that this was a big chink in the armor, but this is a very they've done it pretty convincingly. Like, the bowling performance is excellent, and they have grinded their way in the batting. Okay. So I think India and Australia, they have been the two best sides this tournament, and it's going to be a cracker.
Okay, two best sides in the tournament. It's going to be a cracker of a contest that you're going to see on Super Sunday in Ahmedabad.
So Anil, if you talk about the way
South Africa in final.
if we talk about the final, it is going to be between two heavyweights, two most successful cricket teams of the world, and Australia won this match by 3 wickets. And how the matchups, if you take a look, the way India played in this tournament, winning 10 matches on trot, and Australia also performed well after they were losing first 2 matches after they found their mojo back, and just they dominated. So talking about the final, what do you think? What are the permutation and combination of that, considering India's run and the Australia's run?
Well, Narayan, that's a valid point that you make. Looking at Rohit Sharma has set a template for this particular World Cup. Come out in the first 10 overs, take the opposition out. I think the difference between South Africa and Australia in this particular game has been that first 10 overs. The way David Warner came out, smashing the ball all across the park, taking Rabada out of the attack, making Rabada look like an ordinary bowler, because Rabada has played IPL too in this part of the in this part of India. So Rabada has the experience, but he made Rabada look pretty ordinary. And in the end, when you take your opposition out in the 10 overs, then there is no match left. And I think both the openers knew that. First 6 overs, 60 runs on the board. South Africa missed a trick or two there. They could have got their spinners much earlier there. Maybe second over, you could have thrown it to a spinner, tried something different, because it was very clear the Australians had one thing right in their head, that they're going to come out and smash the ball irrespective of whether they lose a wicket or two. And I think that's where the game was won and lost. And I think that's a big leaf that every team is taking out of India, because Rohit Sharma comes and does a similar kind of a script for India in every win that India has managed to get. Even in the last game, it was Rohit that set the template. Rohit came and blasted that quick fire 47 that set the template. Even when India were chasing against New Zealand in Dharamshala, Rohit set that same template, came out, hit a quick fire 30, 40, unsettle the opposition. Before the opposition can gather the camp, you have Virat Kohli that comes in and starts rotating those singles and doubles in, converting those twos into fours, and that's where the opposition miss a trick or two. I think Australia have taken a leave out of that, and it's going to be a good contest between bat and ball between the two sides.
Definitely, both the teams are the most successful team in the world, and the kind of cricket Australia has played is wonderful, and once again they showed that why Australians can never be written off in any contest anytime. So we are also joined by our expert and former cricketer Ajay Mehra. Ajay, a very warm welcome to the show. And as you know that the Australia won this match, the crucial semi-final match. So always we were discussing that in this World Cup, we saw the performance of this South African team scoring, piling up huge scores. And finally, when it mattered most, again, we don't want to use that word for them, but this again stumbled. They again, we can say, they faltered at the crucial juncture of a tournament. What went wrong?
Absolutely, Narayana. I thought, first of all, when they won the toss and they were batting first, decided to bat first, South Africa, they should have batted much better in the first 10 overs. I mentioned that earlier as well. Once you lose those 4 wickets very early, you're always trying to come back into the game. But of course, David Miller today, he was special, he was outstanding, getting a brilliant 100. But I just thought, those 4 wickets up front when they lost, that's the reason probably had they scored around 260, 270 on this surface. Because this surface was helping the spinners a lot, and they had quality spinners. They had Markram, they had Tabriz Shamsi, they had Keshav Maharaj, who bowled really well. So, those 40, 50 runs in the end were really vital for them. Because Australia, they know how to win. They know how to cross the line, Narayan. They are such a good side. They are 5-time World Cup champions. So they know how to win. And of course, there was a tremendous start by Travis Head, just the way he batted, getting a brilliant half century. Early on, even David Warner was looking good. But they lost those crucial wickets of Maxwell and Mitchell Marsh very early. But, a lot of credit to Australia, because they once again showed that they were the better side. They kept their nerves under pressure. And in the end, of course, winning by 3 wickets. So once again, we are going to see a thriller of a game in the final. But I thought South Africa missed the trick first, batting first. And then, as Anuj rightly mentioned, probably could have brought the spinners a bit early, because this surface was assisting the spinners a lot as compared to the faster bowlers.
Well, Ajay, how do you make sense of the fact that this particular South African side looked much better in terms of the performance that they put in the group stage, but when it comes to perform or perish, they once again perish, and the wait continues for them to reach a final in World Cup cricket?
Absolutely, and that tack of the chokers will always be there, because somehow I just felt with the batting today, they were let down, because you can't depend on one man, David Miller. It was just that reason, because this crossed the 200 mark, that 100 from David Miller. But once again, the batting was a big letdown, because you see the earlier games in the league phase, and they got those big runs. They were outstanding with the bat. They had got even 400 plus, nearing 400 in a few games. So they were outstanding. But today, when it mattered the most, they were let down by the batting. And I also thought the fact that on the field, what I was seeing was, it was all, the entire team was handled by Quinton de Kock. Of course, he's a seasoned campaigner. But, as a captain, Bavuma has to lead from the front. Didn't do much with the bat in the field as well. He was a really pale shadow of himself as well. So I think, you not need to have a strong leader when you're playing this crunch games. You see someone like Pat Cummins, under pressure, he comes into bat, the way he performs, you see Rohit Sharma for India. That's one of the reasons, not the main reason, but one of the reasons that these teams are doing well, India and Australia, because they have a very strong captain like Rohit Sharma and Pat Cummins. But I feel overall, South Africa were a good side. They looked really good in this tournament. But somehow, once again, the crunch game, they weren't good enough.
Ajay, do you get the sense that the opening 6 overs that David Warner and Travis Head played, that actually took South Africa apart, and South Africa, by the time they realized, Australia had almost put 50 plus runs on the board.
Absolutely, because when the ball is hard and it was coming onto the bat much better, that was the time they attacked. And you're right, absolutely, because those runs in the beginning really mattered in the end. They got to their star. The impetus was provided by both the openers. Especially, I thought someone like Travis Head was outstanding. Just the kind of the skills he showed. He was taking on the faster bowlers as well. And, you made a very good point, Anil, that someone like, Keshav Maharaj could have been brought in a bit earlier. Even someone like Tabraiz Shamsi, because you got to understand these conditions were really ideal for the spinners. The ball was gripping, it was turning as well. And not only that, I haven't seen very often at the Eden Gardens so much of bounce for the spinners as well. So when there is that bounce along with that turn, becomes, lethal for the batsmen and really good for the bowlers. So I really thought, someone like the spinner should have come in a bit early. But I think that's the phase, the initial phase where South Africa missed the trick, they missed the bus, because Australia got off to a flying start the way David Warner batted along with Travis Head. Those runs early on were really vital for them. And that really set the tone for them, because that becomes much easier for the batting side than to get through that target.
Ajay, if we take a look at that,
Ajay,
you mentioned that there was a strong captains. If you talk about India, if Australia, they both have a strong captains. And considering the fact that Temba Bavuma has not, we can say that he has also had an ordinary performance with the bat. So do you think that the planning of the South African cricket management, the board, would have done better things, because considering the captain is the key part of the, we can say, the sports of cricket, and the way the conditions were there, he failed to understand those conditions. They could have done better.
Narayan, you see the World Cup winners. You see West Indies in the 70s, Clive Lloyd, one of the greatest captains ever. You see Australia as well. You see, who captained them, Alan Border, Mark Taylor, Steve Waugh, very strong captains. You see India as well, led by Kapil Dev, the innings that he produced, always leading from the front. You see MS Dhoni in 2011. You need a strong captain in big tournaments. You can't have a captain who's not assured of his place in the playing 11 as well. And for me, it was very strange to hear someone like Bavuma at the toss that, I'm just coming out of injury, still not fit. When you're going to the semi-final match, a big game, South Africa have done pretty well. But, you can't be saying that I'm half fit, I'm still, recovering from that injury. You've got to put your best foot forward. Even if you're injured, don't mention that at the toss. So I think, these things really matter. These are small things, but these mind games, you see Australia, they always play the mind games. And those are really important in the end. Bavuma, he's hardly contributed for the South African team with the bat. And, I just feel that probably that's where South Africa really missed their trick. They need a strong captain. Yes, at times he's batted well, but he hasn't been consistent at the international level. So I thought really Pat Cummins, you see, on the other hand, the way he had that partnership with Glenn Maxwell in that crunch game against Afghanistan, the way he batted, didn't get too many runs, but was ably supporting someone like Glenn Maxwell. That is what a captain means, He's always trying to give his best. You see Rohit Sharma as well for India. So I think absolutely, I feel South Africa need a better and a stronger captain.
So David Miller has scored 101 runs for the South African team, but his knock went into vain. Ajay, considering the fact that now the final is set up between the two heavyweights of the world cricket, Australia and South Africa, Australia and India, and it is at one of the biggest stadium of the world, at the Narendra Modi Stadium. So considering the fact that we have witnessed the very large stadiums in the Australia, they are used to play in such stadium. So do you think it will be a positive point for this Australian team, or whether India will continue the we can say momentum they have gained and will just again give a rollicking performance and crush their opponent? So how do you look the final match?
I still go with India now, and just the way this side is playing, they're looking really good. And we saw in the league phase as well, the way they defeated Australia. But, Australian players, you can't forget that a lot of those players play in the IPL as well. They played in Ahmedabad. They know the conditions pretty well. I remember a game I was covering a test match out here a few months back when our Prime Minister and the Australian Prime Minister were out there. And, Australia have played a lot of international cricket as well at the Narendra Modi Stadium. So they know the conditions pretty well. They know the surface pretty well. They aren't pushovers. Remember that, because Australia, they have the knack of winning those big tournaments. They give their best. They're a strong side. We saw that with them in this league phase as well, the way they came back after losing the 2 initial games in the league phase. So they know how to win, and as they say, winning is a habit. But I think India at the moment, I'll go with them. 60-40, of course, the final game, but I'll go with India. Just the way their progress, just the kind of bowling lineup we have. One weakling in this Australian lineup, what I feel is the spin department. You see someone like Adam Zampa. Today as well, he wasn't at his best. He was leaking runs. You see Keshav Maharaj or someone like the Brace Shamsi, the way they bowl for South Africa. So I think the spin department is a bit of worry for Australia. On the other hand, India, I think just the kind of bowling resources they have, I'll definitely see that India are the better side, going to the final.
So India is a better side as far as final is concerned, because the kind of cricket they had played is wonderful, and we can say that in the recent past, in the history of the World Cups, it is rare to see such dominance. We saw the dominance of Australia and West Indies, but this dominance is of different kind. Anil, if you have witnessed this match and the way today Australia played, we know that we know them as a team. We cannot write off them at any stage of the tournament, and again we can say that it's a tough opponent for India as far as the final is concerned. But the kind of cricket India has played, the kind of bowling their bowlers did, the kind of batting their batsmen displayed, and also the most important thing, I feel that the number 4 conundrum, it has been solved by the Shreyas Iyer. So do you think this Indian team is right now is we can talk of pressure, is nothing like pressure for them in the match, also in the match against South Africa, in the match against New Zealand, in the other matches also we saw that they are playing a flawless cricket. Will that run continue?
Well, I think, Narayan, I would, surely agree with Ajay on that particular point, especially when it comes to the Aussie spinners. Adam Zampa has got 22 wickets in this particular World Cup. But look at the way South Africans came against Adam Zampa on this particular track that was assisting spinners. I think that's the way to handle Adam Zampa. Because otherwise, if Zampa gets a hold of this particular match, South Africans would have been much deeper problems. Not being able to reach 200. The way they handled Zampa, but I think, they came with a planned script for Zampa, but not for the other bowlers, and I think that's where they paid the price. But all in all, I would say, it's a battle between evens there on Super Sunday. Australia have their plus, but Australia in subcontinent conditions, if you look at the way they have played the 2011 World Cup, they lost in the quarterfinals. After that, they are coming back to India after 12 years. They have put together an 8-match winning streak. But I would say, Australia still are a bit ifs and buts on many fronts. And if the teams can exploit that, Maxwell can be good. But Maxwell, if taken out early, becomes more of a liability than an asset. He comes good in, say, 1 out of 6 matches, and he come good in this particular World Cup on one occasion. You can't expect, Maxwell to come good in every match for Australia, especially the double role of, using Steve Smith as well as Labuschagne is not working for them, because they both come and slow down the innings, and that's something that India would be looking to exploit. And it's not going to be easy for Australia on the subcontinent tracks, with India in such sublime form. And I think a good contest between bat and ball, and that particular track there in Motera is surely going to be even Stevens, and both sides can look forward to, or fans can look forward to, for a good contest between bat and ball.
A good contest we can witness with bat and ball in the final. Ajay, if you take a look at this tournament, both India and Australia started their journey. They played their first match against each other, and the final again we are witnessing between the two heavyweights of the cricket. But in the first match we saw the way they started the tournament, India just thrashed them. So will that win will have an impact on this match?
Narayan, I don't think so because that's past, and I think Australia after that they have done pretty well. Of course, Australia and India, they've always been that rivalry. Always has been so great, and now it's the greatest rivalry as well because those two teams have those big players with them. But I feel that's league phase. Yes, India won that opening game, but I think Australia after that they have come back pretty well. A lot of the batsmen are in form. They're looking good side. But overall, I feel, just the kind of rhythm that the Indian team has shown, just the kind of momentum that Indian team has shown, that's the reason I'm mentioning. Because it's just about one win or two wins. It's about the consistency of wins. And I think just the way Indians have played, and I always mention this, that the Indian bowling now is looking really good. You can rely on all the bowlers, not only one bowler, but all of them are strike bowlers, all of them are match winners, be it Jadeja, be it Kuldeep Yadav, be it Mohammad Shami, be it Bumrah or even Siraj. So I think that's a big strength for India. And, as far as Australia is concerned, I just feel that, someone like Pat Cummins bowling in Indian conditions in the subcontinents, Anil rightly mentioned, he isn't the best. He can get those wickets as well, but, Indians are handled pretty well. I think the only threat that India might have is from someone like Josh Hazelwood, who bowls in that corridor, the line and length bowler, someone like Glenn McGrath, just very consistent with his line and length. But I think overall, the Indian team has looked different. They've been very positive. And you see the consistency of the Indian batsmen as compared to the consistency of the Australian batsmen. I think they are far, far ahead, the Indian batsmen, if you compare both of them. So I think, overall, India is looking really good. They just have to play the best game. They know the conditions pretty well. They're playing at home. The crowd support will be there. Yes, you can't write off Australia. They're a good side. But I feel, India, are really deserved to win this World Cup.
So we saw we can say that at one point of time it was anybody's match, but the way Australia handled the pressure, we can say that they have done this thing in past also. Anil, one quick reaction from you. If you talk about the South African team, again they failed at this juncture of the tournament. So what positives they can take from this match? But we can say that it was a good match, but finally they fell short of few runs, or if they would have taken few crucial wickets, it could be anybody's match. So takeaways for them, positive.
Naran, I would say the captaincy, that's a big cause of concern. If you are not fully fit, and if you're still talking of ifs and buts before a big game, and even when he walked into the toss, he did speak about his injury. So that was really somewhere, clicking at the back of his head. And when you walk out to bat, he's not had one great innings in this particular World Cup. He's never looked confident to hit a 50. So the team was looking for a good start from Quinton de Kock. And the way the captain fell in the first 2 overs, clearly opened the doors, because then Quinton de Kock, what he was trying to do was trying to score quickly. And Australian fielders were just superb on the ground, especially when it comes to ground fielding. And that's where the pinch came in. Quinton de Kock tried to commit harakiri, and South Africa paid a huge price. That's where the downhill started for South Africa. But for lessons to pick forward to, I think they will need to get a bit more composed, a bit more organized, especially when it comes to some person leading from the front, one. Secondly, taking the lessons of the 9 editions that they World Cups that they have played, where they have gone wrong. It's those knockout games. I think they need to get somebody who can work with them, especially when it comes to handling those nerves, cooling those nerves there in these crunch situations. That's not going right for them time and again. It's another 4-year wait. Let's hope that they can bounce back stronger and be a much more better competitive unit in the next World Cup.
True, Anil. Leadership is a very key component of any area, whether it is politics, whether it is sports, whether it is business, because we have seen that the teams, as Ajay also mentioned, that the way the teams like West Indies, India and other teams who dominated, they have a strong leadership. And we are hoping that this South Africa will take key lessons from this crunch match. And after 4 years, they will again come back as a big force here at the World Cups. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us, giving a perspective and analysis of this match, and hoping our viewers also enjoyed this show. So keep watching DD India and for the latest updates and news. Thanks for watching, And again, we will continue this coverage in the coming days also, because the semi-final match is between India and Australia at the Narendra Modi Stadium. So keep watching and stay tuned. Namaskar.